everybody using the chat or here. Welcome to the Embracing Many Pathways session. We're going to feature a couple speakers right off the bat, and then we're just going to open it up to hear from participants. And if you want to talk about your pathway, or if you have resources where other people can learn about your pathway, or there's some other pathways that we might not cover today, just drop that in the chat and we'll be able to save that and have that available. So our first speaker talking about medication assisted recovery today is Marcus Buchanan. So we're going to give Marcus some time, and then we have two other speakers after Marcus, and then we're going to open it up. And so we're going to learn about some different pathways today. With that, I'll pass things over to Marcus.
All right, thank you. My name is Marcus Buchanan. I am the program director for a HRSA-funded grant, the Rural Communities Opioid Response Program. That's here in Cherokee County, Oklahoma. We have Tahlequah as our major city. Cherokee Nation's right here with us. I explored several different pathways back when I first started my recovery journey. I tried inpatient treatment. However, I had a 4-year-old son at that time, and I couldn't imagine being away from him for what they were asking me to do, 30, 60, 90 to a year. I just couldn't imagine doing that. I had never even heard of MAT, methadone, or anything. Well, obviously I heard of methadone, I abused it, but before that, I never really understood what it was meant for. I didn't know what MAT was. And I just started researching it. And I happened to stumble upon one in Tulsa, the Cherokee Katua Treatment Services. And I just gave them a call. And they told me to come in about 2 days. I had to do the intake process. And just to back up a little bit, I had a 10-year intravenous heroin addiction that started with a prescription pain medication in high school, and it just gradually went up to heroin, black tar. So I go to the intake at the MAT clinic there in Tulsa. The intake nurse was the primary reason I stuck with it. She was just an older nurse that kind of like the no nonsense type person. She said if I stuck with it, she would stick with me, and she did. She was there the entire time. Just to go in a brief description of the process, intake. We started at a low dose just based on my history of use. Throughout the course of the year, I had dosed up to a specific milligram, and I decided I wanted to go ahead and start coming down. That I felt like I had enough tools in my tool belt to where I could maintain sobriety. So the course of that second year, we started dosing down very little over the course of the year. And then I had completed it right under probably about 2 or 3 days shy of a full 2 years. But some methadone clinics or some MAT clinics, OTP clinics don't necessarily offer the wraparound. A lot of them is you go in, you get your dose that morning or for that week. Some are doing weekly shots now. And that's it. You go about your day, no counseling, no classes, no nothing. The particular one I did, we did have daily group meetings. It felt like a 12-step, but it wasn't a 12-step. It was led by a licensed professional, and then once a week we would meet with our specific counselor. So we had a ton of support to follow that medication. So March 16th, 2016 was the day I went to the methadone clinic, and I did not use heroin after that. They gave me a dose of methadone, and I was determined to not use again. Plus, I was broke and I owed too many people money. I couldn't go get it, to be honest. So I didn't use heroin, and I haven't used any type of opiates since then. And I'm a big component for MAT. I think when I meet someone who is looking for recovery and just testing the waters, I just give them my personal experience. You know what it's like to withdraw. Second day, third day, fourth day. We know that feeling. Nothing is like that feeling. to me anyway. So methadone really just took all that away. I had gone to 2 or 3 days of withdrawal before, but methadone, I didn't even notice it. I can only speak on methadone because that was my experience. I did not look as if I was using. I know a lot of misconceptions about methadone is that you still get high. I did not get that. I just was not sick. Even at my highest dose of that first year, I wasn't feeling high or nodding off, as a lot of people may believe comes with the MAT. But like I said, I dosed down over that second year, down to where I actually was petty enough to have 1 milligram, the bottom of this bottle of fluid. I had to add water to even get it, but I took that last dose December 28th, 2018. I was determined to stop that week because I went back to college at the beginning of January, a week later. So as far as the stigma around it, I understand that completely. I know there's a lot of stigma. By no means am I going to bash any other program. Everybody has their program and it's perfect for that person. But I was not necessarily welcome to a lot of 12-step groups because of my involvement with MAT. However, I did stumble upon Smart Recovery, which accepts MAT without even a second glance. That was the primary support after I left the clinic, after I dosed down. I say graduated the program, but there was really no graduation of it. But so there is a Smart Recovery. If you haven't heard of it, you can Google that. I am a smart group facilitator. We're still working towards getting some groups started here in the county. But yeah, and there was a lot of other programs out there. There's one called Stigma, Stop Stigma Now. It's actually an MAT, strictly MAT stigma campaign. They're not local, they're out of New York, but they have a lot of support behind them. If you ever really experience any stigma, they will help you with that. As far as MAT, a simple Google search for MAT OTP clinics, wherever you are at, will give you quite a few names. Definitely do your research, try to see what kind of support they offer in-house, as far as the counseling, therapy, group classes, and whatnot. The one I did, it was sort of like a community college. You had a schedule of different types, different topics you could go to throughout that week, and you would set your schedule up like that. Like Fridays, they had meditation, guided meditation. So that was one I really was drawn to, really enjoyed that one. Yeah, I'm a big supporter of MAT. I know there's several different medications nowadays for different substances. But yeah, just passing this information on that you can to anybody looking for some help that may be a little too scared of the cold turkey. This definitely helped me a lot. I really appreciate Aaron putting this on.
Hey, Marcus, thank you very much. And I owe it. And, I thank you for telling your story. I know a little while ago, you did an interview with a national newspaper that did a story and got to tell your story a little bit there too. And so thank you for being that voice of your experience. And, for somebody that has a completely different pathway, I think that the medication piece is something that you're right is often, like we always talk about the stigma of people in recovery, but then there's like the stigma within the stigma of like within our own community, like it's a real thing, and so that was something that I had to look at. And then I realized early on that one of the people that very early in my recovery that really I credit with helping me out tremendously was on medication assisted recovery. Right. And so I kind of got over that sort of like bias that I had. So I just wanted to thank you. And when I talk to people around me now about medication assisted recovery, I'm just like, well, what health issue do you know of that doesn't have some sort of medication solution to it? And I can't name one, And so why would a substance use be any different, you know? So thank you so much for sharing. We're going to go to our second speaker, Lacey, who's going to be talking about recovery pathways through prison programs.
Hi, my name is Lacey. I'm 32 years old. I have two sons. Caden is 15 and Kaiser's 6. I grew up in Velma. It's a small town where my father was the chief of police. I had two amazing, loving parents. Both of my parents were always in my life, was extremely the best parents I could ever have. I was a little spoiled. I was the only child. So my parents started having a rocky relationship. There was a lot of abuse going on, and they finally divorced when I was 10. So I moved to Duncan with my mom, and this is whenever my nightmare started. My great uncle began molesting me and made me do things to him that I didn't want to do. And whenever I told my mom's family about it, they didn't believe me because they were a very wealthy family, and things like that just don't happen in families like that, you know? So I began hanging with the wrong crowd of people. I started drinking and smoking weed when I was 13. I was sneaking out and always in juvie. I think I went to juvie probably 30 times before I was 18. By the time I was 15, I found out I was pregnant. My mom kicked me out. December 30th, 2006, my son Caden was born. And in 2010, I was gone to work and my son was abused by my boyfriend at the time. The police were called and I rushed my son to the emergency room. DHS was involved and my son was placed in emergency custody with my mom. The very next day is when I started meth for the first time. I was in and out of jail for drug charges, and in 2013, I was in a large drug bust. I went to prison for my first time. I'd done 6 months and was right back living the chaos and addiction. In 2015, I found I was pregnant with my second child. I was fighting more drug charges at the time. My son was born October 22nd, 2015, and I found out 6 weeks later I was pregnant again. I was told if I didn't have an abortion, my mother wouldn't keep my son while I went to prison, and it was the hardest decision that I ever had to make. I signed for a 20-year sentence in January of 2016. I served my time and was released December 4th of 2019. I still had unaddressed trauma, no coping skills, and I still wasn't able to see my children, and I felt hopeless. The only thing that I knew to do was turn back to the streets. July 2020, 7 months later, I was raided and found with $20,000 cash and 3 kilos of meth. I knew my life was over. I was sick and tired of living that lifestyle. I wanted something different. I began to be my biggest advocate and hungry to gain my life back. And March 23rd, 2021, I was accepted into the Remerge program. Upon completion, my aggravated trafficking would be dismissed. I began working on myself and putting one foot in front of the other. I started digging deep within myself. I started to learn who I was. I realized helping other people who struggle with addiction, mental illnesses, and other things similar to the things I've been through were my passion and what kept me sane. Being able to give hope to others is the best feeling in the world. Being able to empower women, inspire others, have been my biggest blessing. My values and morals have changed so much with my growth and recovery. I now have my life back. I have hope that I never had before. I'm 15 months sober, obtaining my PRSS certification, and I have my dream job at Ocarta, which I plan to make a lifelong career. Both my boys are living with me, and I speak for events discussing recovery, reentry, and diversion programs throughout the state. I have healthy relationships, my family's trust back, a home for my boys and I, a few credits away at OSU for obtaining my managerial business degree with a 3.94 GPA, and I'm breaking the cycle of addiction in my family. I'm giving hope to others who are living a life I once knew so well. I now have a successful life worth living, and I can give hope to others. I'm a living proof that recovery is possible.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can,
Yeah.
can you share a little bit of like who like is eligible for the Reemerge program, and like what are some of the things that you like, what is your day-to-day like in that program sort of consist of, you know, like what are some of the things that you got?
So there's 4 different phases in that program, and it's an 18 to 24 month program. The first phase, you're at program all day long, Monday through Friday. But then after 90 days, you can phase up. So in the next phase, you go 3 times a week. And then in phase 4 and 3, you go to 2 to 1, depending on you, if you got a job, or really it's really individualized. But to qualify for the Remerge program, you have to be a woman with a child or expecting a child, and you have to have charges in Oklahoma County. But they also have another women's program that accepts women without children. It's just not called the Remerge program. It's the Lady Diversion program. And they also have one in Tulsa. So it's a great program. It changed my life. And then being able to be part of OCARTA, that's my lifelong family and where I want to be for the rest of my life. I never thought I would have a career that I wanted to settle down in, but I realized like that's my home and that's where I'm happy at. And just all the love and support that that organization gives to an individual is really life-saving. And so it's wonderful, the resources that you can get in the community that really we live in. You know, I always thought we lived in such a disruptive community. I never seen what the recovery side could be like. And now I'm just full blown in it. And I love helping people. I love mentoring women. And I just love being an inspiration because this is something I never thought my life would be.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you. I appreciate that you brought up your local recovery community organization as OCARTA as being like, because I think a lot of the times like that peer support and those recovery community organizations like OCARTA are able to kind of step in and fill a lot of the holes that are like out there, you know, like in communities that where a lot of people might take a step back or fall through the cracks in care, you know. And so recovery community organizations like OCARTA and peer-to-peer support are really able to help people maintain that recovery. So thank you for bringing that up as a piece of your recovery too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your story. And our last speaker is Dusty. And then we're going to open it up just for, you know, if you're thinking about your pathway or some other pathways that we might not have brought up today. But Dusty wanted to take a couple of minutes to share her story around Celebrate Recovery. And so with that, I'll turn things over to Dusty. Dusty, you're on mute.
Okay, there we go.
All right.
All right.
Good to see you.
Okay. So Celebrate Recovery, you know, I believe what I believe, and I'm not really much of a church goer. I believe, you know, that you can pray and do all that stuff wherever you're at. So, and I really didn't like the church settings most of my life. I wasn't raised like that. But Celebrate Recovery gives well, I guess a different approach because, you know, they don't, you know, like with AA or NA, you know, it's either alcohol or drugs. And with Celebrate Recovery, it's any addiction. And so people of all, you know, of all addictions come, and it gives a diversity to the group that was interesting to me. I liked it a lot. I mean, I kind of used to joke around and say, you know, I get my recovery and my Jesus all in the same place. You know, it was at a church, but it wasn't really a church setting. You know, they celebrate for the first hour, then they recover the next hour. You know, it's a, you know, they break into a group the last hour, and women and men, and they we talk about all kinds. You know, it's not just addiction. I mean, it's cigarettes, anything you're addicted to. And I got some really, I met some really neat people, and I helped them and they helped me in ways that they didn't even know, you know, because they didn't have any kind of background with addiction or anything like that. I think one of them's son was in prison, you know, and we kind of helped each other because I had just gotten out of prison. But that Celebrate Recovery was my go-to after prison. I got an 11-year sentence, and I did 2.5 years, 2 years of drug court, and 9 months worth of ankle monitor. So, I mean, by the time I got to drug court, I didn't even qualify for the program. It was just like my probation or whatever. So, that's a little bit of where what happened to me. I mean, I sold and done whatever, but now Celebrate Recovery really helped me. I would still be going today if they hadn't kind of dwindled out a little bit. But I hear there's a great group starting it back up, and they've got plenty of people right here in Tahlequah anyway. Celebrate Recovery is everywhere though, literally. So, I did go to rehab. I mean, prison, even though I was mad about prison, I know that it was what saved my life. I wouldn't have changed any other way. So, I was mad about it whenever, of course, when I got thrown in, but, as time went on, I accepted it and actually, kind of thank them for stopping me, because it would have been, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it on my own. I didn't have any desire to do it on my own, probably because I couldn't. But, that's like I say, it may be a choice, at first, the first few times, the first 10 times, the first 50 times, I don't know how many, but it changes after a while, and there was nothing I could do to change it. I mean, the ball was rolling and I was just, trying to stay out of its way so I didn't get ran over. But that's just kind of what my life had come to until they, put me in jail and put me in prison. And but Celebrate Recovery helped me greatly. It put a lot of things, into perspective. Like I said, I had a wide variety of people to help and to talk to and stuff. So Celebrate Recovery was my pathway.
Thank you so much, Dusty. I know that I live down the road from this huge church. They have thousands and thousands of people that go through that church, and every Friday they have their Celebrate Recovery, and they do their dinner, and it's like, and they do their meetings, and there's got to be over 200 people going through that program, and just at this one location, and so it's definitely working for some people. And I think that that's amazing that you're able to share with us today, and thank you for that. Wanted to open things up for a little bit for people to kind of either ask questions or respond, or if there's a pathway that you wanted to talk about, or any sort of resources you want to drop in the chat box on any of those pathways. We're going to open things up for the last 15-20 minutes here, and just whoever wants to just chime in, just take yourself off of mute and just jump right in. We're not really a shy community. Go for it. It looks like Brandy wants to talk, or Veronica.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Brandy Vore, and I know I've been very excited back here. I kept trying to get a picture. I was telling people, like, get on. And so they finally all came together. So I got very excited. But I'm just, I know that we were working with you before. And so I've just been really grateful to see everything really move and roll forward. And that's why I was like, Yvonne, I need you on this, because you're gonna make sure you make all the meetings and get on there and everything, because we've just been having a big transition lately, but we didn't want to miss any gaps or create any gaps in our movements and conversations. So I really appreciate this platform, because it allows recovery community organizations, whether they're grassroots or they're national or whatnot, to be able to have a voice and be able to be recognized at a national level. And just embracing the fact that peers can be so successful in somebody's recovery, and that, just because we help people in recovery doesn't mean that we don't deserve to live better. And that's something I've had to work with myself, is like, oh, well, no, like maybe I don't deserve these things, but that's kind of old way of thinking, right? Because I've made all these strides, I've done all these things, I'm doing the next right thing. So, but bringing more awareness, not only to peer support, but also the data that is overwhelmingly positive for what we're doing, and we're able to capture that very well. No, it doesn't look like yes, no, check here, check this. There's a lot harder to break down, because we're trying to ask somebody how their life is, but we don't want just a good, great, pourable, whatever. We're trying to like really see what's going on. So of course the data is going to be a lot more broad. But because of these types of action programs and other national organizations and just trying to help us all get together so that we can continue to have that voice has been tremendously helpful. And, being able to drop things like recovery addiction or advocacy program and being able to say that, we're working with you all and that, we have someone speaking at our agency and they're able to share their voice has been extremely helpful with us too. And so, I just appreciate everything that's going on. I'm sorry about my in the background, but I mean, I was listening, I promise. I was just like, come on, staff, I want to take a picture, get all of our pretty faces on there. And then we were playing tag. So, but thank you for letting me share and pointing me out. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, I thought you were waving your hand, but that's all right.
Yeah, sure. That's what I was waving my hand. I was like, no, don't get off.
But thanks for coming on. And I
Yeah,
totally agree with you because it's like I always think about like that it's like there's prevention programs, there's obviously treatment programs out there that are like clinical. And like where we're missing it is that investing in that like ongoing peer support that you're talking about, that recovery support. And because if I think about the people that might be struggling or have a recurrence of use, it's not in like a controlled treatment setting. It's like when people or it's like when people get back into their communities, and so how do we make sure that we can foster communities that allow for that recovery to thrive. And so the peer support and the recovery community organizations are the ones getting that done. And so I always have to nod to the folks that are doing the deal in that part. So it's pretty opened up. Does anybody want to jump in?
I will say something else. I know for me, prison is supposed to be what corrects you, but for me, being in that community, I found more people that like to live the lifestyle that I once was living, and I met more connects. There was no correction at all for me. I knew who to turn to as soon as I got out. I knew what to do, progress in things that I didn't do before prison. So prison is not what helped me. It was getting active with my community and having a support system like my job and my program and my children back home with me that drove me to want something different. But it most definitely wasn't prison for me.
How do you like how can that sort of transition be easier for people that are coming out of prisons or are coming out of treatment? How can we make that
immediate available housing?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I mean, they're housing first and all of their basic needs met right off the bat, get them into a job type program. And then now we have actually presented an equality system to where they're given the same opportunities as anyone else, right? Because we can't control the environment they were brought up in, right? And they've already committed a crime and they paid for that crime. Now, we want them to reintegrate into society because we let them back out, right? So how do you reintegrate back into society with no clothes, no job, no resources, no home, no nothing? You don't. And also the only thing is the game you used to run.
Right.
And that when you ran that game, yeah, you might have been a little miserable, but you had food when you wanted it, you had clothes, you had somewhere to sleep, and you'll just handle all the stress of being out there on the street, and doing what you have to do. But if we can just continue to focus on housing first and being able to help meet basic needs first, then work on everything else, then that is the way that it's going to work the best. Yes, if you can get released from prison and someone like our peers can transport you from there to treatment, but once you leave treatment, you still need those same things. You still need all those needs met so that you can continue your progress. Because, coming out of a system with nothing in place, I know that parole officers and probation officers and all that, they're doing their best, but it's overwhelmed as it is. So we have to be able to provide those things at the beginning if we really want to enact some change. And I think we're doing pretty well at it, but we could do a lot better. You know, we had 5 and we're at 3, but it's not houses, but that's only because we're getting picky now, right? Like, well, we're kind of good at it. This is exactly the kind of house we want, right? And that, so it's cool, but you know, even though we do have these programs like these, they need help at the beginning so they can get their job and get everything kind of together. Because I mean, they've basically, especially if they're if we're talking about the ones going in there because they're getting arrested for having a disease, they're getting arrested for having a disorder. How would you feel if your loved ones, once they got cancer, got arrested until they decided they didn't want cancer anymore? I mean, you know, like, it's just like that. That's how we have to look at it. And I mean, I don't know if people like that or not, but it doesn't really matter to me, because I know that we have to look at it as a disease. It's in the DSM-5 or 12 or whatever they're on now. Doctors can actually treat it. There are ways to treat it. They have a way of treating it. So it is a diagnosable disease. And we need to treat it just as if it's any other diagnosable disease, and give people and help them get the things that they need so that they can have and see their best life. And I really think that if we continue to spread that message and advocate for that, we will be able to create a better homogenized society that looks at a person as an entire person, that we can really start to erase the trauma of racism away with that. We can start to erase all the biases between males and females, between LGBTQAI plus spectrum. We can start erasing these things, not the people and who they are, but the fact that everyone is getting the things that they need. And so I think that it would really help us to be able to move forward and really create that, you know, that when people say all lives matter, that they understand that we really mean everybody, right? And I don't necessarily support that phrase. I'm just saying, like, I don't think everyone understands what they're saying, because a lot of us have felt less than human. A lot of us have felt less than, and were forgotten. You know, people that are homeless, people that are, you know, prostitution, drug dealers, all these people that have been labeled and considered throwaways. They're not thinking that their lives matter. They're not thinking, when we say human lives matter, they're not thinking of them, because we don't think of them that way. And so we have to change that conversation, and it starts at your dining room table. And you got me on my soapbox, I'm sorry, but that conversation starts at your dining room table. How do you talk with it about it when no one's listening? How do you talk about it with your children? How do you talk about it with your community when you don't have to put on a show? Because if we're not staying like this all the time, then we're not a part of the solution. You know, I'm in recovery from racism. I'm in recovery from substance uses, because I had to identify those things to be able to see the world for what it really is, so I can make that true change and help everybody, and help everybody on the level and needs that they need, not what I think they need. Okay, I'm done. Woo, sorry.
That's great. I actually want
I was gonna say the same thing that Brandy said. What would have helped me was having a way to transition out of that. Because you know, I did 5 years, so I became institutionalized. That was the norm for me. So I didn't know what it was like to live in the real world. I didn't know. I had to learn everything again. I had to learn how to be a good parent. I had to learn how to work again. I had to learn how to just be a normal human being. And if I would have had a housing or some kind of community support that I was getting out, I would have been fine. But they all prison wants is an address. They release you to an address. That's all you have to have, is an address to get out. Once your time is done, they don't care what happens to you. And so it's very important to have safe housing and people that you can talk to, and having professionals trained to mentor people, and just having that in your community is just, it was life-saving for me.
If I could ask real quick of anybody who's representing
Hey, Marcus,
recovery home.
can I just jump in real quick, Marcus? I think I just want, oh yeah, no, sorry, go ahead, finish your piece. Go ahead.
I know a lot of jails and prisons are slowly starting to move towards offering MAT. So I'm curious with the recovery homes, what the policy is. I know several Oxford houses in Tulsa do not welcome anybody who is on MAT. So I'm just curious if anybody representing I see recovery homes and You were talking about
So-
housing. I'm just curious.
We do. We're in Tulsa. We have a
Okay.
women and children's, we have 3 homes. And so we do a case by case kind of thing. It's not just across the board, anybody. We kind of go in and interview and see where they're at and what their plan is and kind of at that stage. So we've had several, we have 2 in there right now that are, and came from treatment. So we do here.
Awesome. Good. Did anybody else want to chime in for that? Thank you, Kimberly. Yeah, Travis, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Am I on? Okay. I'm Travis. I have a recovery home, R2H2 recovery in Pryor, Oklahoma, and we currently do not, but that's only because we're within a year of opening up. We opened up last September and just have the one house and don't have the clinical professionals. Even in our town, they got rid of the push Mataha that was doing the drug counseling, alcohol counseling. The lady that was running that for like the last 15 years retired. Husband got sick in COVID or something happened in the family, and so she had to close the doors on that. So even in our local community, we don't have a drug and alcohol counselor, and I'm not really certified. I'm the director, owner, and house manager currently. So I'm really not qualified or able to do like a 24-hour monitor of the facility. So for that reason and that reason alone, we don't allow it now. But in the near future, I'd say within the next year, I would like to be able to take on more clients that are at a lower level of recovery. Currently, we run like a level 4 is how OCAR and NAR puts it. We're a level 4 being that they're in their last stages of, maybe they're coming out of prison and they're clean, or maybe they're coming out of a rehab and they've done well for, 9 months to a year. And they just need that last step, that last, putting clothes on their back, giving them that work ethic, getting them back out into the community as a contributing factor. So currently that's where we're at. I know there's in our community, just Pryor alone, I think we have like 8 or 9 men's houses, and I know we have 2 or 3 women's houses. So it's pretty thick in our area. So if they don't fit the mold of our program, then I'm not in this for money. We're not greedy. I put them where they need to go. There are programs around us that there's different houses for people at different stages, and I try to get the clients wherever they need to go. So yeah, to that question, we don't currently, but within the next year, we'd like to conform to that for sure.
I'm actually in your community. I'm right here in Shodo, not too far down the road.
Yeah, it sounds like something you all can work on together, right? Just to make, you're working to make that year 1 to year 2 transition into accepting medication assisted recovery. You got one of the state experts right down the road for you, so definitely hook up with Marcus on that. I wanted to just I didn't want to lose some of the thoughts, because is it Brandy that was speaking before, or Veronica? I'm confused which one's who.
Yeah, that's Brandy. I'm Veronica.
Brandy, okay. Brandy was the one that was speaking, right? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
What Brandy was talking about earlier, sorry, I was just confused with
That's okay.
Brandy was talking about earlier, the intersectionality of race and substance use and housing issues. I just wanted to let people know we have a national training Thursday. It's on a Thursday. It's usually the last Thursday of the month, but this month it's on the 4th Thursday because the last Thursday is too close to 4th of July. But the one this week, is this Thursday, and it's on unmasking racism in recovery spaces. And it's 7 Eastern on this Thursday. So if that's something that, when Brandy was talking about that, you want to learn more about that, or you dive deeper into it, we have an amazing guest speaker that's going to be talking about that this Thursday. And so if you haven't registered for that, just click on that link I put in the chat space and register, and you can send your staff or you can go. But we'd love to see you this Thursday at 7 Eastern. And then the other thing I wanted to remind people of before we head out here, and it does look like, this was a great session because we were able to identify a lot of, it looks like we can do some stuff around housing. It looks like we can do some stuff around recovery support and closing some of those gaps. And so I want to just we'll keep that on the radar for our future team discussions. Our team meets every 2 weeks. And so we just met today earlier in the morning, but we'll meet in 2 weeks. And so I wanted to just drop one more link in the chat because so we host an annual convening for community organizers, recovery advocates just like yourself from all across the country. There's a virtual conference this year, September 29th to October 1st. And it's called Mobilize Recovery. There are thousands, hundreds and close to probably over 1,000 people that have registered already. And that the reason why I bring it up now is because that registration closes at the end of June. And so I just want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to participate in that. If you go to mobilizerecovery.org, there's a tab for the virtual experience. And you don't want to miss, you don't want to not register and then learn about all the special guests that are going to be there and be like, oh, I should have registered in June. Like, just register. If you are able to go on the virtual conference, September 29th to October 1st, sign up at mobilizerecovery.org. There's also a national bus tour that is it's starting in Vegas in early September and ending in New York City and going all over the country in between and back. And so and so part of the idea of that is it's literally, we have that saying, meet people where they're at. And so that's what this bus is doing, where it's literally going to communities all over the country and meeting people where they are, and working to highlight the efforts that are happening across this country from advocates and organizations and telling the stories about different regions. And so that the bus route will be announced in July, after July 4th holiday. And so be on the lookout for that, but that's at mobilizerecovery.org as well. And so I just wanted, and so if you, and so I hope to see you Thursday. I wanted to thank our speakers. I hope that you're able to register for the Mobilize Recovery Conference. And so we have a few more minutes. If anybody else wanted to chime in, we left time here. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to kind of make a correction. I back up a little bit. Prison is not what helped me. Prison is what forced me to get help.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to make my time not wasted,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I actually, signed up for a rehab in prison. And by the time I got out of that, they had closed all rehabs in the prison system. And so, but that is what, prison is not what helped me. The rehab is what helped me, but prison forced me into it. When I said that I wasn't so mad about being arrested, is just that I wasn't so mad about it. When I was livid in the beginning form, just plucking me out of my life and putting me there, I could appreciate it at least. It forced me to do something about it. But yeah, prison is not what helped me, and housing is what would have helped me when I got out.
Yep. Yeah. So it sounds like we're going to be doing
come home.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to be doing some stuff around housing next. This team looks like
it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's needed.
And it incorporates the pathway stuff that we're talking about, and the work that to be done in housing and medication certainly goes hand in hand, right? If you want to join the Oklahoma Recovery Advocacy Project team and meet with us every 2 weeks, we meet on Tuesdays. Is it Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesdays? Is it Tuesday today? Yeah, we meet every other Tuesday. We just met this morning, so the next one will be in 2 weeks. I'm gonna drop a link in the chat. If you want to join that team and get the email reminders to help plan the advocacy efforts and the organizing, just fill out that really simple form that I just dropped in the chat. And I want to thank you all.
I wanted to say something real quick. I wanted to say
yeah, go
also
ahead.
having like a team of people like us that is sincere about their recovery and helping others, being able to go into the prisons, working on getting your badge and being able to take your organization inside the prisons and let them know that there is places out here for them to go to, because in there you don't know nothing. You don't know what's going on out here. And some people have been locked up for 5 years, 10 years, and they don't know what to expect. So just having, being able to go take your organization or what you do inside the prison and speak to people can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Aaron, I have a question. Can
Yeah.
you tell me, I went to the website Mobilize Recovery. Is that in person, online? I don't see.
Yep. So the mobilized recovery, so the bus tour is obviously in person. That's going to be making in-person stops. And then the conference is virtual. It's all on Zoom. And so by clicking on it says virtual experience at the top of the website, and you click on that and put it as a participant. If you are a trainer and you want to share, you want to train on something specific, like if you want to do something around medication assisted recovery or around housing, you can actually apply to be a presenter too. And so if you have a good idea and you want to share it with people at this conference, just click on the be a presenter. If not, just click on apply to participate.
Okay, thank you.
And Dr. Cornell West and I'm trying to remember the name of our other guest speaker that we announced. I forget. But anyway, we have some good guests already and some fantastic trainers, and it's amazing every year. And so you don't want to miss it. And so with that, I appreciate you all. We're kind of up at the hour here. But if you want to join the Oklahoma Recovery Advocacy Project, I dropped that link there, so that way we can include you on the invites that happen every other week. All right, thank you to our speakers, thank you to the participants, and for the discussion after the speakers. And so I appreciate you all. Everybody be safe. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Good to see you.